Like my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids. And no, I don't give a I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open the door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. You make sure these doors are locked every night. This alarm is on. You text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, you know? And so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different.
Hold up. All right, fellas, so you heard the video. We're going to kick this off starting with AK. Is American masculinity different than any other type of masculinity, and how does it impact raising young men?
Shit. Is American masculinity different? Hell yeah, it's different. I mean, I'm first generation African. We're Nigerian, and like we're raised, you know, even though we were raised by a single mother, we were still raised under like African standards, and like, you know, people talk about it in memes and stuff like that, like, you know, men were men, like, but like that's how it is over there, you know, like the roles were like kind of definitive, and it's not like in a way of like, you know, disrespecting or like segregating people. Now, like women are really empowered in the African household too, but like, you know, the roles are respected differently. In the US and America, dog, you know, this shit, it's different. It's crazy because like I mean, I was just having a conversation with somebody about this earlier. Like, we want to be so different, and we want to be so like, we want to make everybody happy, you know? That people want to be inclusive as possible, but like,
ooh, hold up, hold that thought. We're gonna come back to that point you just made, but I want everybody to make the initial points, and then we're gonna open it up.
Okay, well, I'll say it's different. It definitely is different.
RJ, what are your thoughts on masculinity and its influence on raising young men?
You know, that's really a big thing. For me, I think it's generational. Me being a little bit older, I can agree with Anthony Mackie's whole thought about yes sir, no ma'am, and whatnot. I feel like we've kind of moved away from it, and so yes, it's to have that firm foundation and key to what a man should be and the role he should play. When that's lacking, yeah, lots not going to come together. So yeah, no, this is a good topic.
Appreciate that. Cole, where do you stand on masculinity and raising young men?
So it's interesting, right? Because I guess as a man, I feel differently about manhood than I think a lot of people do. I definitely agree with the protection and provision, but I think that a lot of times the part about manhood that is not spoken about is the fact that we enjoy it. Like, we're not actually allowed to enjoy the fruits of being men. Like, for instance, just simply being a father. When we speak about a lot of the tenets of being a man, a lot of it is things that we talk about as though we have to, or things that we're forced to do because of the society that we live in. But as the brother, I'm sorry, I forget your name, and my screen is very small because it's a phone, and I have bad eyesight. But as you were saying, you're from Nigeria, and a lot of times, what it is, I feel that we're missing here in America is the fact that even if you think about the saying that we need a men in the household. The reason why we need men in the household here is because the culture isn't reinforcing and teaching manhood to where in the culture, if the culture was doing that, now a single mother is empowered to raise a man, to raise a man child because the culture backs her up. So I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. The question kind of caught me off guard. So that's kind of why I'm like, you know, doing a little hopscotch, but I like it. So there's a lot to
This the warm up, so this is giving everybody the chance to warm up, so don't even sweat it.
it.
We
Okay.
gonna call you ML instead of saying all those letters. So ML, how significant is masculinity in raising young men, and is it existing or is it lacking?
I think it depends on where you are. I think personally, honestly, for me, it's weird because I think there's different types of masculinity depending on your culture. You know, in America, we have a lot of cultures within cultures, and for Black men in particular, I think we are you're raised to hide your emotions and just soldier through, which I think is something kind of universal with all the different cultures in America. So for me, it's hard to find a balance of being the man that society wants you to be while understanding the man that you are and trying to put those two things together and present it to the rest of the world. It's difficult. Like for me, I teach my son it's okay to show your emotions where that's something we don't normally do. You know, you just pick up and keep moving every day no matter what. You show up for your family, you show up for your friends, you try to be a source of strength, which gets hard because when you're the rock, who do you lean on most times? Which is the hardest thing for me being a man, because every segment of society has their idea of what a real man should be. I've always found that confusing because I'm like, you are what you are as a human being first, and depending on where you at, you can be looked at as a strong man, where in another place you might be looked at as a weak man or an immature man. It kind of depends on where you're at and who you're around. But I just teach my son, be who you are, and it kind of is what it is. No one can tell you what you are as a man. Only you can tell yourself that. You just got to shut all that other stuff out.
Got you. TR, same question for you. How significant is masculinity in raising young men, and how existing is it today?
Yeah, masculinity is definitely something that's lacking today, and with some of the men I think we're probably the last generation. I don't know everyone's age, but I think we're the last generation where where we know what true masculinity looks like, and now people are trying to tell us what masculinity is, and then as well as say like, hey, you're being toxic masculine, and you have to operate a certain way. Like, I think we're past that point where this new generation, I don't know how they're going to be able to become masculine unless they have fathers in their lives, and especially in the Black community where if you don't I didn't grow up with a father, but it's going to be difficult because you're going to have everyone telling you that are not masculine or they're women telling you how you need to be acting. And the crazy thing with some of that stuff is that's the stuff that's going to get you either, I don't know, say deleted, or they're going to have you, single. Like, those aren't things that are not going to help you be the man you need to be in this world, especially in the United States. Like, we're we're seeing a lot of crazy things happen in 1 week, in 1 month. And partly because a lot of those people in there, they just don't have any masculine trait. They're afraid to, stand up and say what they want to say, or, be vocal in their own communities. And it's unfortunate though, because Mackie's spot on. He's trying to tell how he's raising his sons. But again, people aren't going to listen to that. I mean, I want to say this video did go viral, but I don't think it went viral for the right reasons. And no one's really talking about it anymore. which is unfortunate. But it was a good conversation by Mackie, but it just people aren't interested in things related to fathers being active in their kids' lives, unfortunately.
So let's pivot real quick because you mentioned one of the buzzwords that's the hot topic of today. I personally am irritated with this word, but I want to see how y'all feel about this toxic masculinity. I happen to believe that it doesn't exist, and I happen to believe that any example that you can think of toxic masculinity is actually it's the opposite. Like for example, a man who holds a woman down and SAs her, that's not masculinity. That's somebody who's abusing their power. So is toxic masculinity, is it real or is it cap? Cole, let's start with you.
Okay, so toxic masculinity is both cap and it's both real. It's cap because it was absolutely made up by some people that felt away. But now it's become this real thing. And to be honest, it's one of the most unfair things because we end up having to defend it when the truth of the matter is it's real simple. All of those examples of toxic masculinity, if you sit down with any man who you respect, and one of the things that I'd like to say is that, and I said this on another podcast, we all have different definitions of manhood, but if we all sat in a room, all with our different definitions of manhood, there is a spirit of manhood to where I could look at each one of you maybe operating in your version of manhood, and I'm going to respect that. So let's say that we have that group of men sitting down in a room and we lay out all of the things that are called toxic masculinity. I believe that close to 100% of the time, we're going to be like, that's not toxic masculinity. That's just not masculinity. But we also know that the vilification of the black man is something that's kind of sponsored, right? I want to stay away from forever blaming us for where we are. I know it's our responsibility to get out of it, but I'm never going to blame us. But the vilification of the black man is one of those things. And it's really easy to attack that. And it's promoted through social media, which kind of guides a lot of our narratives. We know what's true, but and thanks to the show that you just mentioned, The Pivot, and other sports people like that, is really only now that black men are starting to be able to have a voice and speak for ourselves, and we're still being dismissed. So, in short, it's not real.
Got
It's
you.
not real at all. But we do have to deal with the ramifications of people believing it's real.
Hmm.
Sure. ML, toxic masculinity, is it facts or is it cap?
I think it's 100% cap. I think the influence of the internet and social media and everyone being able to reach everybody else with their opinion instantly. It's just when we were younger before the internet, if you had a dummy with an opinion, he just had to talk to other people around him or whatever they thought was kind of localized. Now you can find like-minded people all over the world without ever leaving your house. So everybody just gets together and they decide. A lot of these things are real subjective, but the toxic masculinity is just nonsense to me because what's toxic now when we were kids was kind of the it thing. Like that's what you want to be as a man. And now that we're older, society wants to tell you, yeah, you can't be that anymore. And I think you could absolutely be that, to each his own. I think being strong and having a healthy amount of confidence and being the man that you want to be, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. And depending on who you are and what level of status you have in this world, they'll accept it from certain people. They'll accept it more from professional athletes or celebrities because we put all these people on pedestals nowadays. But as an average everyday man, it's a problem.
ML, are
And
you
I
implying
think
that there's more grace for people with a platform or with wealth when it comes to masculinity?
absolutely there is. I think also this heavy push of feminism and all these independent, empowered women now also impacted a lot. I mean, depending on how they see you as an individual, is whether they want to label you toxic or they want to label you as a great man. Same thing if you shoot your shot at a lady, depending on whether she finds you attractive or not, determines whether you're a creep or not. You know, just it's all in the eye of the beholder. And I think we all get so bogged down with buzzwords and these silly notions. Everybody thinks they know what it is to be a man, and most of the people with that opinion aren't even guys, you know? So how you gonna tell me what I need to do as a man when you're never gonna walk in my shoes or be one?
Hey, MC, let me jump in real quick.
Go
So
ahead, TR.
the thing with toxic masculinity is that it's being weaponized against majority of men. And I'm not sure what's the best way to combat this, because when it comes to politics, you act like you walk in there, dick swinging in there. I shouldn't be saying that, but swinging in there, they're going to get you up out of there, especially if you're in the Democratic Party, because they do not want anything close to anyone being overly masculine. And so as we're trying to raise young boys up, it's especially if they're trying to like in colleges and everything, you're not going to be able to like have them like be themselves. They're going to have to like be a shell of themselves, which is unfortunate. I think the best thing for a lot of men to do is just to tell, I think Emily, I think you said it, just, you got to raise them to, be who you are, and then don't let people compromise you, especially when you're operating with women. Because what I see a lot of times happening is, if you invite women into men's spaces, they start changing the dynamic of things. People start putting their capes on. People start, shuffling on certain things. They don't want to be, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to say it mean, but I think we need to get back to that, saying things bluntly as they should be said. Because when you dance around this subject, that's when we start getting all these, people thinking that it's okay to, do all this weird shit with your kids, but it really isn't. And we should be able to say stuff like the whole bathroom thing. Like, I know there's going to be some other topics down the road that we'll be able to discuss, though, but that's a big topic. Most men should have a problem with that, but most men are meek and quiet about it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. AK, what about you? Where do you stand? Facts or cap on the? Oh wait,
I think
Kobe, you had something?
Yes. So I really want to speak about this because you brought it up, and I think that we should speak to it really quickly. I have something, and I think it ties into what I was saying about us enjoying the things that we do as men. Like, I don't think that it's that hard. I just think that we've never had the opportunity to do it, and we just have to start promoting and being happy about the regular things. Like, I got into an argument with somebody over a post because they were celebrating LeBron James for being a good father and a good husband. And they were like, why are we celebrating this? This is just something that we're supposed to be doing. And that's the attitude that we have to not have. So now we can start promoting what actual masculinity is. And the truth of the matter is, actual masculinity is not aggressive or mean. We can be nice guys. Like, we actually would be nice guys. Masculinity is like those brothers that showed up at the school and was giving high fives to all the kids while they were walking into the school. That's what real masculinity is, where I'm already good taking care of my kid, and now I have a little bit of extra energy for the rest of the community, and I'm going to be a father to the rest of the kids. That's the positive stuff. So the way that we're going to combat the concept of toxic masculinity is simply by promoting what we feel is real masculinity, and then giving ourselves the credibility is like, I mean, I know, me and Mike, we do stuff in Phoenix. Like, there are men that are actually out there serving the community. We need to start promoting it and lose the mentality of, oh, he's just doing what he's supposed to be doing. So what?
Hey, Coach, real quick.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. Did I go too long?
No.
No.
Good question. What are we going to do about the men? And I know, and this is the thing, most men, most black men, and most men in general just don't have kids. But what are we going to do about the men that are knocking up these women? Because that's the other issue, is that, as much as you try to help out the community, you still got people destroying the community.
Nothing.
I mean, that's a whole other tough thing.
No.
Holding other men accountable.
We're not. we're not gonna do. You can't.
Yeah, that's
Listen,
what I'm saying.
Hold on. Let me snatch the mic. Hold on. Snatch the mic. Everybody mute for 60 seconds. Hold on. Look, the biggest part of masculinity that's missing is accountability. Men do not hold men accountable because if you call somebody out on a BS, what they're going to do is either try to fight you or they're going to stop talking to you for 2 years because they're stuck in their feelings. So I'm of the position of, it's particularly in my friendship circle. TR's been one of my closest friends since the 7th grade. If I'm doing something dumb, he's going to be one of the first people to tell me. ML's known me since I've been born. He's seen me do stuff that's stupid. I've caught criticisms from him as well. Like, that's the part that's missing with masculinity, in my opinion. Accountability has to come with masculinity. And I yield my time.
Yeah, but
So
you didn't
wait.
say what you're gonna do,
No. He's right. No, he is right. But here's the thing. What I'm saying is we're not going to do nothing about those other guys that TK, or is that TR?
TR.
TR. Okay, yeah. We're not going to do nothing about them. They're not in our circles. And the truth of the matter is, what can you do to stop those guys from going out and knocking up those women, except for really getting in the way and being those women's chastity belt? If they want to give it up, they're going to give it up, and those men are going to do. The truth of the matter is, it's usually one guy has like 20 bodies.
small percentage.
It's really.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so what
you
we
can't
have to
do
do
that.
is just do what we do, and we have to do it proudly and loudly because
I got you
the
next,
only
AK.
problem. I'm sorry, but the last thing, they just get a loud platform. We don't have to do anything about them. We just have to be us and promote us because I know for a fact that we're doing great things. Just promote it. No,
I got you too, RJ. Hold on. AK, you got the floor.
All right, so like 2 things, like just while that's still there and fresh in my mind, my thing is I understand that the only reason why I constantly feel like something needs to be done is because, as far as accountability, is because if I'm getting dressed to like the standards of like the dudes around me, and the dudes around me ain't shit, I want them to be better. Like, but that's why like mentoring and that type of stuff is a big thing for me, because if I can't change people around me now, for the future, we'll try to help the next generation be better and do better. That's one thing. Toxic masculinity. So from the things that we've all been talking about, the things we've all been talking about here is really just regular masculinity. Like, what I've looked up and what I've seen is like what people think of like toxic masculinity is like, SA, like, things that like a lot of people didn't have a definition before, but like now we know it's like a lot of trauma. Like, and that's how those things come up. Like, that's how people like, they do, like, they're in DD type stuff, and we've learned that, like, thankfully we've made a better emphasis on mental health and stuff. So in time, we've learned that like men who have done that, like, they've really suffered by that original condition of like not having anybody to talk to, or just witnessing a lot of trauma and that acting out in their own lives. Like, now that we know that and what it's called, there should not really be a use for the term toxic masculinity, but it's a scapegoat for like, just, it's a general term rather than doing further research. When people want to have lazy arguments, it's something people can use. And, definitely we're up against it. Shit, black men in the world, it's the hardest character to play as, but
Okay.
we have to understand. It's pretty, that's pretty much it. We just have to understand, and like, we know what we're up against, and like, just still enforce all these masculine things, still enforce, like, it doesn't look the same, but like it looks respectful. It looks like minding your manners. It looks like, just treating them well, treating each other well.
All right, RJ, take us home on this topic before we jump to the next one. You on mute.
Let me go ahead and unmute. I was about 5 seconds from grabbing that mic because y'all missed me on that first round. So I know I do a lot of hosting. It's weird to be a guest. I was sitting here about to blow up. So anyway, feminist buzzword cop out. That's toxic masculinity, right there. And we seem to let women take that term and let them refine it, redefine it, and do everything that they want to it. And then it becomes situational. It fits the situation for the person. He yelled at me. Well, a real man wouldn't do this and wouldn't do that and whatnot. So it gets abused. It's the ultimate cop.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I call it a cop out, it is. And I'm going to segue from that because we beat that one to death. But I'll go ahead and say this too. When it comes to accountability, I made a podcast a while called The Purge. And I said it comes time when us as Black men, we're going to have to cut some of our own off. Remember the Titans. Sometimes you got to cut a man loose, because a lot of these brothers that you want to be accountable for, they're not ready. They're not wanting that. They're seeing the fruits of what I call my wife. I said, once we get out of COVID, it's over. Ain't nobody want to get married. Everybody's going to be serial daters. Everybody's going to go through it's just going to be a mess, which it truly has been. So now it gets to the point to where there's just some folks you just got to say, you know what, bro, you got to go. I can't, because we're starting to carry the weight of so many people. We start to lose the motivation to want to, in the part of being a mentor, being men. That's the key thing. And when I say purge, we have to. Right now, Black men needs to find out what the warrior class, what that definition means, because we're lacking that. We're lacking that want to make a difference, or we've been so conditioned to not just, you'll profit more just to shut up and say nothing. That doesn't benefit us anymore. Right now, we're at a crossroads. And from people either not saying something, not wanting to take a stand, we are in what we are in right now. And I'm to the point now where it's scary. Okay, let me say this. I lost a child. My oldest child passed away. I have a younger child, and I have dealt with everything that AK was talking about, and MC, you know my story, which I'm not going to go into. But the thing about it is, I've seen it. I've seen the toxic masculinity label being placed on me personally. I was accused of DV with no proof. Had to go literally defend my life. I still to this day carry along the dismissal paperwork, because a person formerly in my life, the mother of my children, felt like that's a good way to get you out of the picture. I don't want a male. See, either you want to be a male in the household, or you just want to be present. There's a difference. I wanted to be present and accountable to my children, to make the example, to set the example. I'm 52 years old. I came from that generation where, this is my turn, where you got your ass beat. Well, I came from a military family where, like it said, yes, sir, no, ma'am, open doors. You didn't get rewarded for being a good dad. That was expected. That's like saying you go buy a new car and you tell them, you know what, hold the engine. I don't need it. No, that's not how it works. It's an all or nothing deal. And these women now are only accepting men who are just there, in the sense of, well, I'm here. It doesn't work. A man is better off being absentee than being in a home doing nothing. Yeah. He's actually
That's going to be another topic for another day. That's going to be a hell of a discussion.
Boy, I'm going to mute myself. Y'all got me
bring RJ back.
Yeah. Let's move on, because
Okay, let's move on. Y'all got me.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to the next topic. So we got quite a few to go.
How long do we have?
We already halfway through the show. We just only got the one topic.
Damn,
so,
bro. Yeah, you gotta understand. You give men an opportunity to speak. Don't nobody let us talk. We need hours, bro. We got stuff to say. I love this. Okay.
Well, if any of y'all, we might go over a little bit tonight, but here we go. I got 2 short videos for the next topic, fellas. We talked about
I have time. I don't know if everybody else got time. I got time. I'm enjoying myself.
We'll circle back to that in just a second. But let's move on to the next topic. We talked about masculinity and sons. Now let's talk about the little ladies. I'm gonna show 2 quick videos.
I have 3 sons. 3 sons When you're 18,
Oh, let me start
get
that
out.
over.
I have 3 daughters and I have 3 sons. 3 sons. When you're 18, get out. Get out. Now, while you're out, better get 1 degree, 2 degrees before you come messing with me. Like, I'm not just gonna be funding stuff because you wanna do it. I did to them like somebody did to me. When they turned 18, I went to the bank because I spent $1 million in one day, and the guy gave me a book, The Dummy's Guide to Starting Your Own Business. I gave them all the same book. And I said, here you go. You're a man now, make a decision, but if you ever want to come mess with me, I need 1 or 2 degrees. Now the ladies are a little different. Hey baby, you can stay as long as you want. Hell no. Love you, sweetheart, no boys, don't worry about getting married. And you know, the conversation I had with my 6 children, I said, look, we don't need another basketball player. Your daddy's crazy. You don't need to be like me. I have 3 daughters.
Hold on, one more video. Close that one out. I got one more video for you. Then we're going to kick off the conversation. All right. You're going to notice a theme here.
Home and I fucked up because I told my daughter, yeah, baby, don't worry about it. You can always come home. You always got a room. My son, he can come home, but he get the couch. Eventually, he got to get the fuck out. He got to. He a man. You got to go. You can always come home, and sometimes it may not when shit don't work out. I ain't knocking that because you got to get back up on your feet. You know what I'm saying? But just know, nigga, this is temporary.
Right.
You know?
All right, fellas, we're going to kick this off with TR. We're all fathers here, some with both, some with sons only, some with daughters only. But should your fathering / masculinity change when raising daughters versus sons? TR.
I don't think it's going to change. Well, I'll say this: with a lot of men or young men growing up, I mean, sometimes you got to go through a lot of pain just to be who you're going to be in this world. When everything's given to you, that doesn't make for a good man, unfortunately. I'm not saying you gotta fall into a pit and pull yourself out though, but kicking your boys out, like I'll ever hear where boys get in trouble or when someone's with women when they're 18 or 19, their frontal lobe's not developed, but you're kicking your sons out at 18, 19, and you're not going to help them. And I think they probably are going to help them, but the way they made it sound like they won't help him with anything. And he has to get 2 degrees. Well, you're probably going to have a degree until you're in your mid-20s. And for a lot of boys or young men, I mean, you really ain't got anything, but your sister or the daughters, they stay home. They get to, stack all the chips. They get to get in, come into this world. And those are people in your dating market. They're the ones telling you like, you ain't got anything. So if anything, you're doing a disservice to you're giving your daughter like a tilted look into life though, because when she gets out there in the world, because of your teachings, the way you raised her, she's going to see that the men in her age range, they're not men she wants to be. If anything, you're going to push her to someone that's a little bit older, someone that has all their shit together, because she's never been pushed out of the nest. She's never had to really, fight for anything. This actually reminds me of feminism. Like they're given everything. They never have to fight for anything. And then they want to act like this is something that we worked for when you really didn't. But for the men, I think that's a mistake that, you can help your son a little bit. I'm not saying you gotta, like hold his hand or anything, but I mean, don't buy him a brand new car, buy him a clunker. I think most boys get clunkers. Honestly, I got a clunker, when I turned 16, 17. So I don't know. It's definitely gonna, depending on what the results are. I mean, like I said, I just think it just kind of depends on the, what if your kid turns out to get on the pole or become a doctor, I guess.
Real quick, I'm supposed to be moderating, but I want to throw this in. This is a cold line I heard a long time ago. When a girl is born, she has all the value in the world. Her challenge is maintaining that virtue and that value as she ages and gets older. When a boy is born, he has 0 value. His value increases with age based on his outputs, his resources, and his results. that's kind of how I approach, and I only have one daughter, right? But I mentor a lot of young men. I do not approach it the same. The accountability is the same. We set goals. You got goals you need to hit, but I'm not showing the type of grace that Shaq or Nelly talked about. If I did have a son and he wanted to come home because he was struggling with something, go ahead, save yourself some money. You're gonna pay some reduced rent, but at least come home and stack your bread up and figure out a plan. We'll work on it together. And I'm gonna jump back into moderating. And AK, I'm gonna turn it over to you. How does masculinity, or should it differ when raising daughters versus raising sons?
I mean, so I'm father of a son, but I was raised with a sister and a brother, and I don't think it should change. I think it's like I think your kid should be for. I mean, definitely we were raised a little bit hard. We grew up, poor. So like things are different, and then like poor single mother, like that type of environment. So like there's things that are different, but like the world we're living in, like I would like I wanted a daughter because I like I had a great relationship with women my whole life, but like either way, as a child, I was going to be happy. But I feel like when you're raising a child, you need your child to be ready for the world. And in this world, you have to be able to live with yourself. You have to be able to live independently, and you have to be self-sufficient, like as a man or a woman, like just to increase your natural value. Like I know you wouldn't want your daughter being, like for me personally, I wouldn't want my daughter to ever have to depend on a man, just like I wouldn't want my son to ever have to depend on a woman. Like I need them to be able to sustain themselves so that no matter what may happen in their life, they're ready to hold their own. And like,
AK, could you make the argument that, and we have white listeners too, by the way, but let's just talk about our community for a minute.
yeah,
Couldn't you argue that that's kind of the problem, that we're all kind of walking around acting like we don't need each other?
yo, that is the problem. Like we do, but like there's a balance of it that can definitely be taught, and that's either by how you view both femininity, masculinity, and like also like how the children view your relationship with women and how they see you interact with women, and understand that just um I feel like, but yeah, there's a balance of it all, and there's a way to teach that balance. Luckily, like this is all still new to me. I am not in the trenches yet, like all the way. And I have one son, and like because honestly, raising a woman, like idealistically, like I think about the things that I would love to do. Like I want to reinforce this, but then the ills of the world on a black woman and like dealing with that, like there's some things that like I'm glad I don't have to think about. I have to worry about raising a black son, and that's and for me, I'm teaching him to be masculine.
RJ, how does masculinity change in raising daughters versus sons, or does it?
Kind of. It does change a little bit. You change your approach. And the reason why I say that now, do I have a daughter? No. But I kind of learned how to change my approach with my second child, because my second child has autism. And I have to, my first child, I'm not going to ever say regular because no one's irregular. My oldest son did not have autism. My younger son did. The things that I did with him, being two boys, I couldn't, it didn't automatically, the template didn't transfer over. So I had to learn that. But now, I ain't gonna lie, I wanted to be a girl dad. And I know some of my friends kind of warn me, like the second you see that girl, you're wrapped around, she's wrapped around her finger, you're wrapped around her finger for her entire life. So I understand that. But for me,
Thanks.
I was always taught this, and I still say this: the child who you give everything learns nothing, and when time calls upon it, wouldn't know how to do a damn thing. And I've always spat that out in my kids. And the way, and I feel like we have to keep that going, and how you treat women, I feel I learned that from my father, and he reinforced that point, like we talked in the first point. Now, my new wife, her father wasn't in her life. He passed away when she was younger. So for me, I courted her, and women these days ain't used to courting.
Damn.
So it was more of a thing to where, I opened doors for her. She's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What's wrong? I can do it. No, the thing about it is that when you don't have a father, women look at it a different way. And so with sons, we have to approach it a different way because we don't know where that clash is going to happen. It could, in a parallel universe, I could have a younger son that dates MC's daughter. And you're going to see a clash of two things. Number one, you're going to see a clash of parenting styles because two different men. And then you're going to see a clash of how a young lady's raised and how a young man's raised and how it reflects on the parents. It's not an easy thing. We're not presented with an easy job, but we're lovingly forced to navigate it, and we don't look for rewards when we do it. So, especially with Father's Day coming up, I'm saying that. But if you want to give me a good gift, you can. I'm just saying. But
FYI, ladies, sex is great, but it doesn't count as a gift.
It's not a gift.
Go ahead and drop some neck, but that's not a gift. Go on ahead and
I want a tier 1 selfish act that you get nothing out of it but me. Happy Father's Day.
I lied, drop some neck. ML, where do you stand on this?
Real quick, most women are terrible gift givers anyways, like in general. Like if we went through this whole panel to say, what's the best gift a woman's ever got you? There might be one or two of us, but it's not going to be the majority of us.
TR, I'm gonna add a caveat to that.
A radio control Hot Wheels car when I was in college. That was the best gift I ever got from a woman.
Look, I'm gonna add a caveat to that. If she's really into you, she's gonna be a great damn gift giver. My wife knows I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. She sends me to Tampa every year because she knows that's what I want. But I'm also easy to please. I know a lot of dudes get trash gifts though, ties, soap, stuff that you can just go and get anytime you want to. But I would argue if she's really into you, she's going to be a little bit more thoughtful in her gifts. But ML, you have the floor.
I got 5, 3 daughters, a son. I have a trans teenager, and it's rough. One of the things I try to do, I feel like you can learn as much from a bad parent as you can from a good parent. You know where we come from, MC. I learned a lot of what not to do from my parents. I didn't have much of a relationship with my father. He was there, but I just always thought he was an idiot. So I don't believe your parenting style has to change. It's like I said when we opened the show, is I try to teach my kids to be decent human beings. And the femininity, masculinity thing kind of falls where it falls in between those things. I teach my son to cook and do his own laundry. I teach my daughters how to change tires and things like that. Because when it comes to significant others, I want my children to be with who they're with because they want to be, not because they need to be. I don't want my son, I don't raise him to think you need to go out and make the money and pay the bills and then your woman can take care of the house, because as a young 20-something, you don't have all that figured out. And now you're in a relationship with this woman who feels like she's more your mother than your significant other. And that builds resentment. And I don't want my son to be stuck in a relationship with this bitter ass girl because he depends on her. And I want the same thing for my daughters. I want you to, I'm a better man than I probably would be if I had 5 sons versus a bunch of daughters, because I want them to have a good idea of what a good, decent man is, so that they don't bring home some dude I feel like I'm going to have to put under. You know what I mean? So that's, I don't do the double standard thing. I don't raise my daughters and sons differently. I thought I would. And the moment that it hit for me is, growing up, when your son's out there in his teenage years and he's chasing girls and you like, yeah, the boy, go get him. And then you look at your daughter and be like, man, you lock that shit down till you get married. I didn't want my son around none of these no good girls either. I didn't feel that way. I wasn't looking for him to get out there and get a taste while trying to keep my daughters locked away. I didn't want any of my kids doing those things. So no, I don't think the the parenting energy should change for boys versus girls. I want all my kids to know that they can always come back to me and I'll always be there to support them. But I'll always make sure to reinforce I'm only trying to help you as much as you're trying to help yourself. If you're just being lazy, then yeah, I'm gonna put you on the clock and let you know it's cold out there, and I will put you out at some point. You can't just stay here forever and not do nothing. But if you trying and you working on positive things and doing positive things, I'm gonna always have your back. And as long as I'm above ground, my door is always open to any of my children. You can come home whenever you need to because I love you unconditionally. You know, I don't expect my son to go out there and just be a man because, you know, that's easier said than done. And I don't expect my daughters to just stay at home and be delicate flowers until Prince Charming shows up to take them off my hands either. You know, I'm trying to raise productive members of society. I'm trying to raise quality people. I'm trying to raise decent people. If you can hit on those things, the masculine, feminine thing doesn't matter as much because the rest of the world's going to do what it does and think what it thinks no matter what. I want my kids to be confident in who they are as people, and all the rest of that shit is just noise and narratives.
And I'm sorry, like the economy is a little bit different. Like this whole thing about putting kids out, like God, man, like that shit's tough.
That's a good point.
Like you can't live the way that like people were living back then, and like to force your child to like go from that part where they're still developing into just suffering, like like that's tough. So like yeah, I like I'll always have that room, but you know I want them to be able to work independently. But you know, shit, I'll help you through it. Like I like what you said, ML. Like you know, I'm there to work with you as you're being positive and trying to get through this stuff. But like you know, you got to be trying.
All right. Cole.
So I think that all of us that have sons be wanting to have a girl too. I think that that's just a natural thing. But one of the things that I think that we do is I think we underestimate the level of growth that we have mentally and emotionally and spiritually from our parents. Like a lot of us, we made it through a lot of stuff, right? And came out on the other side as better people. And I think that we make the mistake of thinking that we had to go through that. So we think that our children have to go through that. And I think that for me, there are things that they're always going to have to learn and work for. They're going to have, but I think that we can instill hard work in them without having to throw them in the mud and be like, get out of the mud. There's so much work that has to be done simply as becoming a successful Black person. And so for me, I don't ever want my son to grow up. There's going to eventually be a time where he gets it, right? But as a child, I don't want him working for any material things. I want the material things that he wants. I do want to just give him all of those material things, but you have to work hard at school, which he's doing very well. He's supposed to be in first grade, but he's reading and doing math at a third grade level. I'm proud of kid for that. Because for me, what is school except for getting that certification? I'll bribe you all the way through that. So that way I don't have to worry about you wanting to come back home. Unless, of course, you really do want to come back home because I need you to come back home. Because I'm not going to lie, I might be that selfish person. That's like, my house is too big. You and your family could be here and, save some bills. But I think that we can instill all of the characteristics that we want in our kids, especially like I can speak for us right here on this panel. None of our kids have to go through hardship in order to learn to work hard for the things that they want. We're all smart enough to create that culture that breeds that. So, and I don't have a girl. So, I raised my son, but I don't raise him to dominate because I think that that's something that's falsely put on men. I raise him to try and empower everybody around him. Like, honestly, that makes the most powerful community, which ends up becoming the safest community. So that's kind of like what I do with him. I just don't want him to be working for a car. I don't want him to be working for a house. I want him to be working for a purpose. and put all of your hard work there, we all know that eventually that you get rewarded with the cars and stuff that way.
Yeah, it'll just come.
Yeah, I think we got everybody, so I'm gonna just drop this. I fully expected to disagree with a couple of you on this topic. If you know me, I'm a social conservative, so I'm a gender roles guy, right? Um, my wife doesn't. My wife can set her own schedule because I can afford to give us the life that we have, and for me, I know for a fact she's happier that way. She's told me multiple times, and I like the fact that she is the biggest influence on my daughter, not like a daycare or school. So I think that I learned a lot from hearing y'all talk. And even Emma, I know you talked about your experiences versus mine, and we're on different ends of the spectrum, but I still learned something from those points you just made because you brought it home with ultimately being a productive person and being the best person you can be. And I think we can all agree on that. So I think that was a good way to end it. So we're gonna jump to the next one unless anyone has any closing comments, because we about an hour
My
in, we
kid
only got
is,
through two topics.
I think that what's something that you said briefly, but is very important, is something that I don't think that even with all the fluidity and freedom that everybody has, I think that we all understand that we are the best influence on our kids. My child's the reason why he is where he is because he's being homeschooled as well. Like I had him at home with a midwife or whatever. I don't trust the government for nothing. Eventually he can go into the schools because he'll be prepared. But I think that that's a facet of it that whether you're on the left or the right, if you could provide an environment where the person that you chose to build life with is going to be the best influence on your child, my son is proof that even though me and his mom aren't together and we've had our battles, she was the best influence on him and a much better influence than the school would have been. So yeah, I just wanted to give you your flowers because that was a dope comment, and I didn't want us to brush over it.
No doubt, no doubt. I know we're getting close to the end point. We have three more topics. TR, I know you mentioned the one that you want to jump to. Let's go ahead and I've got two semi-political topics too, but let's go ahead and jump to stepfathers.